Meet Eric. How did Portugal make his list of places to move to?
I was thinking less expensive, maybe a little more rough.
What was their approach as they prepared to move?
So it kind of that alone changed how we think about things. Everybody has a different story of who, what part of the process was a stumbling block.
Did Portugal deliver?
Doing a computer recon only shows you so much. You never know till you have boots on the ground. You just don't know. I mean, things feel different when you get here.
Did they adapt?
You hear a news clip. Well, even if you know some Portuguese, it's coming fast.
Yeah.
And you never quite really know all the time what's going on.
What caused them to leave, and do they regret anything?
How can we stay and meet all of our needs? We end up being in Portugal about 11 months.
Well, Eric, you moved to Portugal, but then you ended up leaving, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but why did you choose Portugal in the first place?
My partner Wendy and I, we both knew we wanted to try living overseas. We had talked about that and known we wanted to do that for a long time. We, on paper or on the computer, we searched the world over for where we thought we might want to live. And Wendy's a bit of a Francophile, so in her mind she was thinking France or Europe. I was thinking less expensive, maybe a little more rough, if you will. So I was kind of drawn to Colombia, Medellin in particular. But it was COVID. So we were unable to do any of the recon that we thought we really wanted to do. So it was all done on the computer. And we considered the things that were important to us. Ease of residency, ease of citizenship, because we really wanted a citizenship, value of that citizenship. And Portugal just kept coming to the top of the list. At that time, I think it was in the top couple as far as safest places to live, which is very important to Wendy.
Sure.
And it just kept coming up over and over again. And even though we had never come to Portugal, we had decided that was where we were going to go. And we watched every YouTube available on the planet, and we came across what you were doing. And that, long story short, that led us to Portugal and then ultimately to Porto.
Okay, so you had never been to Portugal, and you went through the visa process and just moved here?
Yes, we just moved here, sold everything we owned, except for 4 suitcases total, and loaded up and came this way. And we had decided that, if it didn't work out, we would just, adjust accordingly and do something different. And go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good mentality, because I think sometimes people are like, okay, I'm doing this, and that's it, that's the answer, but you can adjust, right?
Oh, for sure,
And you had to adjust, which again, we'll get to in a minute, but so you just came with 4 suitcases. Was it scary, exciting?
All of the above.
Okay, everything.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's quite the process once you start downsizing your entire life. So, I mean, we had buildings full of stuff. And we had, everybody has those things that you think you'll never be able to part with or never get rid of. And there was nothing that wasn't on the chopping block. We got rid of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all gone. And that proved to be way more cathartic than I thought it was going to be. It was fantastic. And, once you get rid of the yearbooks and, I had trophies. I had one when I was, 12 years old. Yeah. What was I doing holding on to those? But so we took pictures of a lot of stuff. And and pictures is another thing. I'm an old guy, so I had actual hard copy pictures. We had boxes full of pictures that we had to scan and digitize and do all that kind of stuff. So it took some time. Plus, like I said, we had thousands of items to sell or give away.
Yeah.
And it was quite the process, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, it felt good. Doing that.
Yeah, and we were living in Alaska, so anywhere else that we went, even if it was the lower 48, let alone coming to Europe, we had a lot of stuff to get rid of.
Yeah.
So it was just unloaded all of it.
How long did it take you, or how long did you give yourselves to get rid of stuff or go through
it? It was actually a multi-year process.
Okay.
But in earnest, at least a year, because we, are selling stuff on Craigslist and Marketplace, and I mean hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items that were being sold. Yeah, we started at least a year out, and yeah, it was quite the process.
Was that enough time, or did you get down to the wire and it was still like, wow, we still have stuff to do?
You always get down to the wire. It doesn't matter if we had 10 years. It still would have been down to the wire because I was selling so much stuff and people were coming to the house all of the time that at some point you need a break. So I remember there were a week here and there where everything sold off the list and I didn't repost anything. Just need a breather.
Yeah.
But it's very lengthy process. And if anything was certainly $20 or less, we were giving it away.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of motorcycle stuff, and people would come, to buy a jacket, and then I'd throw in the boots and the gloves and the helmet. So you're just kind of getting rid of stuff.
Right.
Amazing process. I had tools. I had a shop full of tools. All those things, and so many things that you just never think you'll part with. I had a toolbox that was gifted to me when I was 10 or 11. It's gone. And it's okay. It's okay. It felt, in retrospect, it was fantastic. It was fantastic to just lighten your life. And I just have no connection to things like I used to.
Right.
So,
was there anything that you sold or got rid of that you wish you hadn't and brought it over to Portugal instead?
Oh, that I had brought with me? Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, we were maxed out. We didn't want to bring more than 4 suitcases. And even at that, I think we were like 50.5 pounds on all of them. So we were kind of pushing it anyway. There were some things in retrospect, knowing that we ended up going back or still have ties to the States, that I probably would have kept. Vehicles and things like that. But no regrets.
Okay, that's
regrets.
Good to know. Because I think that it's hard. You don't know if you're going to have to adjust. So sometimes people will get like a storage container before. Actually, we did that really early on, and obviously it's gone now. Do it for a couple of years, and you're like, I don't even know what's in there anymore.
Right.
Like, do I even need that stuff?
Yep.
So, but it kind of just depends on different, comfort levels as well of what you want to do.
For sure. And at one point we thought about, moving stuff and storing it somewhere, and then we, once you get past that spot as far as making the decision or mindset, it felt good getting rid of stuff. Yeah. And we still have a hard time now reacquiring. I kind of like the extra space in the closet. I like a house that doesn't feel like it's full.
Yeah.
So
stuff everywhere.
And now everything we buy, we love. So we own nothing that we don't absolutely love. If it's cute, I like that, or I might wear it. No, it's gotta be, I love that, and the price is right, or I will always choose that. So if that doesn't foot the bill, we just don't buy it, whether it's furniture or dishes or clothes. So it's kind of, that alone changed how we think about things.
A different mindset.
So there's a positive.
Yeah, great. Okay, so you decided to move to Portugal. What visa did you come on, and how was that process?
It was the D7, so that's the retiree visa, passive income. It's checking boxes, and Wendy is the master of checking boxes. So it was easy for me.
Okay.
She was on top of it. I was still working when we started the process. Wendy was retired, had been retired for a while, and she took that on in earnest and checking the boxes. And there were a number of frustrations along the way. And if you talk to anybody that's actually made it here, and
they don't make it easy.
No, and is now a resident. Everybody has a different story of who, what part of the process was a stumbling block. There were times when things are like, oh man, how are we going to get past this? And then other people, it's like, what? That part of it wasn't even a process. It wasn't even an issue. So it takes a while. We're living on the West Coast. We're from Alaska, so we're in Alaska. So we had to personally fly to San Francisco and do that whole thing. So there's timing and expense, and Wendy being on top of things, we had gotten our FBI background checks early. Yep. So we showed up in San Francisco, and they had aged out. I mean, they were too old, so we had to scramble real quick and do that again in place, and it was always something. But in retrospect, you're kind of like, oh yeah, we got through it. But it's a nerve-wracking process,
right?
Because you're never quite sure if what you have is right, and where you really are in the process until you hear back. It was nerve-wracking, for sure. And time frames, are just a suggestion. I mean,
Yeah.
when you expect things back, yeah, it was.
You never know.
It was
Portugal.
It is Portugal, but you know, you just keep checking boxes and keep grinding, and eventually, you know, here we were. It worked out. So.
Yeah. Okay, so you made it to Portugal.
We did.
Sight unseen. Was it everything you thought it would be from all the research, or did things surprise you?
You know, doing a computer recon only shows you so much. You know, you never know till you have boots on the ground, till you know what the vibe is,
Yeah,
which is legit. You know, I mean, places have a feel, and in no way, shape, or form did Portugal ever let us down.
Oh, good.
It was everything that we thought it was going to be, and then some. But you just don't know. I mean, things feel different when you get here, and it's never the stuff you think it's going to be. But it was. You know, first and foremost, the people, you know, what you hear about the Portuguese people and being welcoming and open, and that was fantastic. We found that to be beyond our expectations. And we were fearful about, okay, how do you make connections? How do you meet people moving to a new place, especially in a new country? We don't speak the language. And well, there's expats. And everybody here is in the same boat. People are looking to meet new people. You've had common experiences, so that's fantastic. And it was actually through ExpatsEverywhere meetups that we started meeting people. And then that's exponential, everybody. So all of a sudden we have a full social calendar.
Yeah.
I mean, we were meeting with people 3 times a day.
Wow, okay.
And it was so that was fantastic. And in some ways, it was, you know, quite difficult. Moving someplace where you don't speak the language, even though we're here in Porto, and you know, most places, especially the young people, if they're working in a bar, you know, they speak English, and so the need for Portuguese wasn't extreme, but you still don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, you hear people talking on the street, you don't know what's going on. You hear a news clip. Well, even if you know some Portuguese, it's coming fast.
Yeah.
And you never quite really know all the time what's going on. You know, even eavesdropping on the table next to you. You know, so that was kind of uncomfortable. I knew it would be, but until you experience it,
Yeah.
it's. That did get tiring, and I say maybe, you know, we were working on the language, and then when we got here, we continued to work on it even more so, and that's exhausting. I hadn't given that as much thought as I should have, or maybe I just didn't understand how exhausting it is trying to translate everything all the time. But yeah, coming to Portugal, there was nothing about Portugal that disappointed us, that let us down, that wasn't kind of as advertised. There's always surprises though.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're here, you jump right in, you're learning the language a little bit, you're meeting people, things are going well. But like we talked about, I mentioned before, you ended up leaving Portugal. So tell us, how long were you here for? What happened? What were the reasons?
We ended up being in Portugal about 11 months. Family. You know, it turned out that we had some family issues back home that needed to be addressed, and that was a hard decision. I didn't leave Portugal for that entire 11 months. I stayed. Wendy returned to the States at least once, maybe twice, and you know, we got grandkids, got some, well, more now, but grandbabies on the ground. She had seen those grandbabies every 3 months, even though we were in Alaska and the grands were in Arizona, so she was traveling, seeing the babies. That was a major pull for her. And there had been a change in the visa. When we first came over, we essentially could have been gone out of Portugal for almost 6 months. You know, I think you had to be here 6 months and a day, essentially. And then that changed to you could be gone for, 8 months out of 2 years, so essentially 4 months a year.
Yeah.
And Wendy wanting to go back to the States frequently, we gave it some consideration to, how can we stay and meet all of our needs, and it kind of came down to, do we spend 2 months here and then fly back for a month? And that started to feel like a lot as we talked about it, expense-wise, but just the travel, holy cow, especially if we were going to do an Alaska leg in part of that, so getting from Porto to Anchorage is a long haul.
Yeah.
It just started feeling like a lot. Plus, Wendy's dad had some health problems, and his living situation changed. And as it turned out, we moved back, and he was able to move in with us. So that worked out well for everybody. And it was the family that really pulled us back. We adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
And we came here thinking this is where we were going to stay. We were going to be here at least long enough to get citizenship, learn the language, and then that would have freed us up where we could have come and gone a little more frequently. I found that once I was here, that traveling back to the States is hard.
Yeah.
And even in Arizona, it's West Coast. So coming this way, we could get flights that were 17 hours, 18 hours are kind of the common one. Going home, it seems to be 20 to 24 hours of travel on a regular basis, and so you don't look forward to that very often, and and then you throw in the cost, especially I don't want to sit and coach.
Yeah, you're tall, so that's rough.
I'm 6'6", so the premium economy kind of seems to be a base for us. I mean, I wish we could swing the pods up front and fly business or first class, but we're not in that kind of situation.
Well, definitely if you were going to be doing it regularly too.
4 times a year, and then the expense, and then we didn't have a home in the States anymore, so then we got that expense. So there were some financial considerations, but really we could have made all that work. It just came down to the family. And my dad was having some health problems as well. He lives in Arizona, and I wanted some more time to get to spend more time with him. So we did go back. There's zero regrets for selling the stuff. There's zero regrets for coming to Portugal. Portugal was fantastic. We learned so much about ourselves. We made some amazing friends that we keep in contact with on a regular basis. And in retrospect, we have no regrets for going back. It was based on the information that we had at the time and what we needed to do, it was the right move. But there's a lot to be said for Portugal.
Yeah.
And we haven't taken it off the table that we still might try to find a way to get back or pursue, citizenship.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So you came on the D7, but because you left, that lapsed, and that's no longer an option unless you reapply, right? So are you looking to reapply through the D7 or through a different route?
Most likely not the D7.
Yeah, because you'll still have the same issue with the stay requirements, right?
Requirements, time constraints. There's a lot of investment options, the citizenship by investment options. So we're going to be looking into some of those, see if they fit into the overall financial / lifestyle plan and in the future planning that we have. Haven't taken it off the table because it's pretty darn great, and we like to spend time here, and then to have access to the rest of Europe. And it's so no, nothing's off the table.
Right. So it's not like you left Portugal because of Portugal. You left because of things going on in the States that you need to get back to.
Absolutely. And I know I've said it before, but Portugal let us down in no way, shape, or form. They under-promised and over-delivered. It's a fantastic country, and the people make the place. And the Portuguese people have been fantastic. And of course, the expats that we met here too. It was easy to make friends, and living in Porto was a completely different lifestyle than we've ever had. I've never lived in a city per se, especially not one that was where you use public transportation and things like that. So it turns out I loved not having a car, and it was easy to get around, and so we're on the metro a lot, but we walked everywhere. It's a very walkable city. Things are close, and as you get to know the city, things are a lot closer than you think they are.
Yeah.
So that experience was fantastic. I've never had that. Glad we did it. It was a wonderful experience for Wendy and I to take that challenge on together, and we may do it again.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in Portugal right now. This is the first time that you've been back since moving back to the U.S.
Yes.
How does it feel?
It's a little surreal to be back. It feels great, and you forget about a lot of the little things that one either annoyed you or that are wonderful. So we've really enjoyed it. We've had a chance to see our people. We've made our friends have made time for us, and it's been fantastic to catch up with people. But the feel of being in Portugal it feels like Portugal. The pace. First thing I notice is the pace. It's slower. We love to sit in a cafe and have a snack and have a glass of wine, and nobody cares if you stay there all day.
Yeah.
They seem to encourage you just to sit there and take your time, and that it's just that slower pace. It feels like no place I've ever been in the States, and that kind of came rushing back. I was like, oh yeah, I remember just being slow, and there's other cultural things. It feels good to be back. There's a lot of things that we miss. We missed the fruit ladies at Bulliao, and the vegetable people, and that whole experience. And going to the butcher, and buying fresh fruit, and it's just a different lifestyle.
Returning has further confirmed that Portugal is still on the table as an option.
For sure. We enjoy it here. It feels good here. When we came from Alaska, people talked about the north and Porto being cold and wet. And we came from Alaska and thought, this is fantastic. It's 50 degrees in January. This is great. Now after a couple years in Arizona, it feels a little cooler and wetter.
Yeah.
But we don't have any qualms with.
Well, then, if you moved back, would Porto be the place, or would you consider another part of Portugal?
Wow, now you're asking hard questions. And we did a little bit of traveling around when we were living here, but not nearly enough. We were still exploring, Porto 11 months later. So if we were to return, undoubtedly we'd probably start in Porto.
Yeah.
We know it, nothing is off the table, but it feels good here. We've got we kind of know how things work. We've got friends here. There's nothing about Porto specific that says, no, I wouldn't live there again. But yeah, we would get out, check things out a little bit, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so we've never been to the Alentejo region, we've never been to the Algarve. We spent 11 months here and never made it to the Algarve.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I mentioned that Porto let us down in no way, shape, or form. We definitely enjoyed the city. One of the highlights for me, I can't speak for Wendy, although I think she enjoyed it too, and cultural events, the FC Porto games.
Definitely.
There, and I wasn't a football fan, a soccer fan in the States, but boy, there's nothing like European football. To go to a stadium with 50,000 people and feel that energy, and it's different. I've been to professional games in the States. I've been to big college games in the States. There's nothing like European football, and the drums and the people that sit back there behind the goal that are diehard fans. Oh my gosh! And what an amazing cultural experience. And then you'd have the season tickets, and you see the same people in their same seats every time. I remember there was a family that sat right in front of us, with granddad clear down through the little kids, and to watch that interaction, and it was really something to see. Plus, you know, we'd leave our flat, we'd jump on the metro, so we could leave our couch and then be sitting in our seats at for an FC Porto game in 22 minutes. It's amazing, with 50,000 people. And then after the game, everybody funnels down into the metro, and then we're back on our couch in 22 minutes. It's unbelievable, just the efficiency. So it was fantastic. We were talking about cultural things. Well, we were here for the São João, which was fantastic. And the Portuguese, very family-oriented. You know, we were out at this big party, you know, a big street party till 2 in the morning. And you know, I'm coming from the States, and I have my career was in law enforcement, so being in great big crowds like that was a little unnerving for me. And in fact, when we first got there, of course, I'm looking for the exits, and I'm talking to my friends. Well, you know, when something goes down, we're going to hug this wall, and this is how we're going to get out of here. And it doesn't happen. It was just peaceful, and it was incredible to see little kids out on their dad's shoulders at 2 in the morning. And we were here when FC Porto won a national championship. Yeah. And in fact, Josh and I went down to be part of that celebration, and people were singing and chanting and having a good time. There was no riots and nobody burning cars, and it's just the community events are just peaceful and calm, and kids are welcome, and it's a fantastic place to be. Loved it.
Well, what an experience. And Eric, at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So how has living in Portugal transformed your life?
Great question. You know, Wendy and I came into this together as a team, and we've kind of always had the mindset or the motto that, you know, we make a decision and then we adjust accordingly. We faced the challenges that coming to a new country presents, and we know that, you know, we can do this anywhere. We can face that challenge anywhere, and it'd be so much easier now that we've had this experience. And here at, you know, as a fan of Expats Everywhere, we believe that you and Josh living abroad has changed lives. So, and it has, because of you being here in Porto and shooting videos, and that's how we ended up here. So it changed our lives, so we're appreciative of that. You putting meetups together, that's where we met the majority of the friends that we have here. That's changed our lives. So I only throw that out there because it's appreciated, and it's kind of a big deal. You are changing other people's lives. So I'm grateful for that, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Eric. And if you want to see Eric's partner, Wendy, talk to Josh on our podcast where they unpack a little more and you get her perspective, then check out this video right here. Now, let's get moving.